All right, I'll kick us off with a short case study highlighting one of our cement customers. So this cement customer approached us with several core challenges, but they wanted to ensure that they could scale AI across their entire operating footprint. This is a really large manufacturer, one of the core players in the cement production industry with over 10% of worldwide cement. And they're operating at a global scale. So 70 countries where they're operating with many different plants, more than 70 plants as they have operations in every country, and 70,000 employees. So something that they needed an application that could scale across all of these different employees who could easily onboard. The core challenges, though, that they approached us with is that really they had previously tried to implement predictive maintenance, but failed to do so at a scalable way. Number one, it was really high effort to prepare data and to prepare ML models. So this was very, very time intensive for their subject matter experts. There's a small number of people that deeply understand the operation of these equipment, operation of the plant, and preparing the data, preparing the ML models was way too time intensive and expensive to enable them to scale out the application. Second is the performance of the models really struggled. They struggled with high false positive rate, driven by things like the data quality led to spurious alerts. So they needed a solution that could very quickly apply data quality rules, apply machine learning to learn the patterns of the actual asset performance rather than picking up on erroneous signals in data. And then finally, because of these two challenges, low scalability and high false positives, the end users weren't adopting. They tried to scale it out to a number of plants, but the users on site at those plants were simply unwilling to adopt a tool that was frankly adding more work to their plate than helping. So we started our work with them in a really typical pilot construct where with C3, our pilots focus on getting a live application deployed to production. We don't do offline POCs and historical data science studies. Rather, over the course of 3 or 6 months, we work to implement a full production application. And in this case, we deployed C3 AI reliability with this customer across 10 different vertical roller mills, where each vertical roller mill is a massive, large manufacturing equipment. So each one contained what we call 6 subsystems, but basically we broke it down into its components, into the logical sub-assets and sub-equipment that are operating together for that entire system. We worked with the subject matter experts to configure these different machine learning models. We ended up deploying over 60 machine learning models, but in the process of this implementation project, iterated and tested thousands of different types of models with a combination of SME input, validation, feedback, iteration, and also many of our out-of-the-box pipelines with automatic ML training and validation workflows to always choose the best performing model over time. The goal as part of this project was really to design and implement a solution that could scale, and that's exactly what we have worked with this customer to do. So the results of the pilot were wildly successful. Number one, we reduced the false positive alert rate by 96%. So this proved that it would be a solution that could actually add value to the end users on site and make their lives easier, providing them relevant insight so that they could prevent downtime in advance. They needed actionable alerts with evidence, like you saw in the demos from Patrick and Anjali, so that they could actually find out what they needed to go do, what was the root cause, and what's the recommended failure mode to go take action. Importantly, there were no missed events. So they wanted to ensure that if they implemented predictive maintenance, they had a solution that would catch all of these events and really avoid all of that unexpected downtime with a solution that, as you can see on the left-hand side, avoids those false positive or spurious alerts. I mentioned that one of the challenges they faced was the data quality and the gaps in sensor data, the erroneous values coming from their sensor data. So in this particular case, we worked with them on a virtual sensor approach. This isn't always the AI approach. We work with our customers with our out-of-the-box machine learning pipelines, as Anjali showed in her demo. We have dozens of different ML pipelines and models that have come out of the box with the application, but we found that given the data quality challenges with this customer, the vertical sensor approach virtual sensor approach really dramatically reduced the number of false positive alerts because it allowed us to predict every individual sensor using all of the other available data. So think of it as a multivariate anomaly detection approach that you apply on every single sensor, constantly making a prediction in a round-robin fashion. The second thing is we used the new faulty sensor capability that Anjali also demonstrated, showing how users can mark sensors as faulty, which automatically removes them from the machine learning model prediction. This is really helpful when a sensor goes out of commission, there's a maintenance work order already being scheduled to go replace that sensor or recalibrate it, but the model itself needs to be adjusted so that that sensor is left out of the prediction. Otherwise, it would generate bad results. So this faulty sensor capability was added into the application and really helped to reduce the number of false alerts as well, and also to gain the trust of the users so that they could see in the application workflow for themselves that those bad sensors are not being part of the machine learning model prediction, and they trust the data that's going into every single machine learning model. To the point of scalability, we worked with this customer to dramatically reduce the amount of time and subject matter expertise required to scale the model to new assets. So on the far left-hand side, you see the early days of predictive maintenance with this customer, where they were spending over 100 hours for a single subsystem just to generate a model. And that's really subject matter expertise. It's a very small number of people who are able to do that work. So you can imagine spending 2.5 weeks just to get a single piece of equipment or single subcomponent live is not scalable. So we worked with them on creating templates, using out-of-the-box models that are really repeatable, validating those models and those templates on a small number of assets like we did in the pilot, and then now at a point where it only takes 3 hours to scale to new assets and onboard them to the application. So much, much faster time to onboard assets and get C3 AI reliability live across multiple plants. Today, we have worked with this customer to implement C3 AI reliability across 79 plants globally. We have 550 users onboarded, working to monitor and prevent failures on over 250 pieces of unique equipment. And we do this with over 700 deployed ML models, but like I mentioned earlier, that can include thousands of iterations of models constantly being reevaluated, monitored for model performance over time. So this customer is very confident that the results of every prediction are accurate, non-spurious, and very explainable to the end users.